So for today, we are going to discuss yet another broad term, which is named as cultural studies. So first of all, there is one question in our mind: that what is a culture? What is a culture? So what is meant by the culture? Here is the definition. The definition of the culture is extremely enigmatic. According to Raymond Williams, another culture theorist, culture is one of the most two or three complicated terms in English languages or in English language. That he just said that the culture is one of the two or more than that complicated terms in English language. It's Matthew Arnold who first defined this term in his essay Culture and Anarchy in 1869. Another culture theorist, Matthew Arnold. So let's talk about it in simple terms, that what is a culture? Culture means a shared beliefs or a set of beliefs where you can include norms, language, that is followed by a particular set of people or a particular group. A set of beliefs, norm, language, etc. that is followed by or accepted by a particular group. Where you can add conventions also and other things too. So here is the another quote from Raymond Williams' work. Culture is I think quote from Matthew Arnold, who first defined this term culture and anarchy. In his essay, he defined this term or this quote in his particular essay Culture and Anarchy in 1869. And according to him, culture is the best which has been thought and said. Culture is the best which has been thought and said. So what is culture? Culture consists of all the shared products of human groups. This is the definition, a simple definition of culture. There are two types of culture: material culture and non-material culture. So let's look at what is material culture. Physical objects created by human groups. This is material culture, some sort of physical objects. For instance, car, buildings, fan, refrigerator, something else. Car, books, clothing, computers, etc. The things that are tangible, you can touch, okay, that fall into the category of material culture. And what is non-material culture? Abstract ideas, you can say. Some sort of abstract ideas. It means your feelings, your emotions, okay. Abstract human creations such as language, ideas, beliefs, rules, skills, family patterns, work practices, and political and economic systems. Okay, it is intangible. You can't touch all these things. Okay, and it includes your feelings and emotions and your notions too. Okay, let's go further. So, what is the etymology of word culture? So, Bildung is a German term that means education, formation. It is mostly the term culture is propounded by the most important writers like Goethe and Shelley. If you talk about culture, the term culture. So what is Bildung? Bildung is a German term that means education and formation or self-cultivation, and it also include culture, maturation, you can say. German word for creation, image, shape, and refers to a process of both personal and culture maturation. Okay, and what is culture basically? A set of shared belief, culture, and norms followed by a group of people. This is the simple definition, or you can put it in a simple way. That is the main definition of the culture. So the term, you can say, it is propounded by this particular word build on, okay, and the word is German word, okay. It means education and formation, okay. As we all know that our learning is divided into two parts, uh, formal or informal, and in that learnings we can see or we can learn many things from our vicinity, from our friends, okay, and they shared some types of common beliefs, conventions, set of rules, you can say, that form a type of culture, okay, that form a type of culture. So here you can say this is a kind of diagram. You can see culture means attitudes. Culture means art, drama, and music. Culture also represents food. Most important, culture represents faith and religion. Okay, behavior, rituals, customs, and most importantly, language. While language is the most uh, important component of the culture. For instance, I say the word Punjabi or I say the word Himachali. So, do you think that these two words define a particular group? When I use the word Himachali, it means that it belongs to a particular set of people, okay, and they somewhere their conventions and their norms and their rules are similar, and also they have a similar language. So somewhere a language is our identity, we could say, because it represents who we are. That's why language is the most important component of the culture. So what is Matthew Arnold's perspective? He just wrote that famous book, Culture and Anarchy. Let's come on to the facts. Arnold put the term culture to denote civilization, civilization. Especially, he is talking about high culture, capable about bringing social and moral unification. There is a unity, social and moral unity among people in arts or music, etc. If you want to take the example, you can take the example of tribes. There are many tribes, and you can see that each tribes has different uh, norms, a set of rules, beliefs. They just follows. Okay. So, phrase sweetness and light to describe the state of culture that should be achieved, in which individuals are open to new ideas, intellectually curious and morally sensitive. Okay, intellectually curious and morally sensitive. Okay, again the question of moral values that is followed by a set of people. Okay, so now let's talk about F.R. Lewis, known for his famous book The Great Tradition, that was published in 1948, and his famous journal Scrutiny, one of the most famous journals in English language. If you talk about, then the full name of this journal is Scrutiny, a quarterly review, was a literature periodical founded in 1932 by L.C. Knights and F.R. Lewis. There is a particular term for Levisites. And in this particular term, Levisites or Levism, you can see that F.R. Lewis and his wife Q.D. Lewis both are in favor of what? In favor of high culture. They both are in favor of high culture. Let's talk about it. The culture and civilization tradition inaugurated by Mr. Arnold is kept alive by the school of Levisites later. Levisite. Where these two people, F.R. Lewis and his wife Q.D. Lewis, are. Lewis argues that prior to Industrial Revolution, England had an authentic culture of the educated elite. Industrialization has been one of the most uh, important changes in human history, you can say. After that, many things change. Okay, if you talk about culture, so they always support high culture and against the mass culture. What is mass culture? If you talk about all the media, television, okay, radio, okay, newspaper, these are all fall into the category of mass media. So they are against this type of culture. They are against mass media. So they just coined a term, and the name of the term is organic community. Concept of the organic community, in which he appears to have meant a community with a deeply established and locally autonomous culture that he asserted had existed in the villages of 17th and 18th century England. He is just talking about a type of a rural setup. The village people has their own culture, set of beliefs. They have their own identities, how they live, and what they just preach. All these things, their living standards, their language is very different. Okay, and their norms, conventions, okay, other things, all the things. Lewis felt that England had a solid, coherent, and organic culture prior to the Industrial Revolution. As I said, that the Industrial Revolution is one of the most gruesome, we could say, or fatal changes in human history, where folk songs and folk dances formed a living culture. Here, he just putting emphasis on folk culture, of folk songs. Okay, like I take the example of language. Okay, language. So there are many folk songs, or you can say ballads, okay, that represents a particular society or a group. In most ballads or in most folk songs, you can see there are some stories that they preach or transfer by singing. Okay, so, and there was a robust moral consensus. The people were united by a common sense of identity, values, and purpose. As I said, this is one of the most important thing in culture beliefs, that a culture is a mix-up of numerous things, where language is your identity. There are norms also. Okay, there are something set of rules that is very common, and each and every person has to follow all these rules, and that all components make a culture. What is fatal mass culture? Why Lewism or Lewisite against this thing? Cultural products that are both mass produced and for mass audiences, example include mass media, entertainments, films, television, programs, popular books like Oxford Dictionary. He viewed mass culture powered by media such as newspapers, radio, and movies as an influence that flattened out standard and eroded authentic cultural values to produce what he called mass civilization. Okay, he just putting a question that this kind of media is just damaging the folk things or folk culture totally. Okay, because all the things going to mix up. Okay, and there is no such identity for a particular language, for a particular set of groups, okay, and for a particular set of people. After that, we will talk about Raymond Williams, again a very prominent culture theorist. For Williams, culture permeates the fabric of people's everyday lives, including their social interactions, traditions, and meanings. social interactions. Okay, the set of thoughts, the ideas, your notions, traditions. One of the most important common component of culture, traditions and meanings. So in his particular book, he just quoted that thing that culture is ordinary. That is the first fact. Every human society has its own shape, its own purposes, its own meanings. Okay, so again, he just talking about the formation of a particular society. That there is a particular set of beliefs, and all the people just follow that belief. So this man is here is Raymond Williams. Raymond Williams, and let's talk about his major works. So his first major work is Culture and Society, 1958, The Long Revolution, 1961, Communications, 1962, Television, Technology and Cultural Form, 1974. And after that, Keywords, a vocabulary of culture and society, 1976. Marxism and literature, 1977. So what is culture materialism? A theoretical model and research. This concept is inaugurated by Raymond Williams. Culture materialism, a theoretical model and research approach that analyzes the ways in which material circumstances such as technology and economics influence cultural customs and social institutions, stressing the importance of concrete elements of existence. He just take the example of hegemony. Hegemony is a term that is propounded by Antonio Gramsci. Okay, Antonio Gramsci, and he in this particular work he just talk about hegemony. It means degree through consent or rule by consent. All the things, for instance, all the high culture, that just high cultured people that just dominated the low cultural people. In simple terms, we could say that it means that all the high class people, okay, that dominated the lower class people. Okay, or you can take the concept of colonizer and the colonized in simple ways. These are the simple concepts. Okay, so what is cultural production? Raymond Williams, a leading culture theorist, understood culture to be a productive process based on material and social relations, with an emphasis on how it helps construct society and fight against prevailing ideologies. This is culture production. So Raymond Williams in his book, he talks about the three main types of culture. The first is dominant culture. What is dominant? The most powerful and prevalent culture in a society can be used to describe the most popular language, a religion, belief, values, ritual, etc. The normalized way of being for society as a whole. You can take the example of any kind of religion here. That is the most dominating or a particular set of culture. Okay. So what is residual culture? A portion of culture which has been built up in the past yet remains present within the culture process as an effective part of the present. You can they're just talking about the culture that is active in the past, but right now there are some traces of that culture in the present. Okay, for instance, you can आप एग्जांपल ले सकते हो गांधीज्म का, ठीक है, जो आपके गांधी की फिलॉसफी थी उसका एग्जांपल ले सकते हो आप यहाँ पे, ठीक है. What is emergent culture? Emergent culture is all about the new, the latest culture that is still evolving. Okay, new attitudes, values, ideal, etc., which are being created continually. This is your emergent culture. Okay. Raymond Williams defined culture from three perspectives. Okay, he's talking about the three perspectives. Let's talk about it. Culture, he denotes the general process of intellectual spiritual and aesthetic development. What? Culture, he denotes the general process of intellectual, spiritual and aesthetic development. Okay, and he looks as a culture as a whole way of life, as a whole way of life. It simply means that culture defines who you are. Culture defines who you are. It is some sort of identity for a particular human being, that he belongs to that region, that he belongs to that race, or he belongs to that religion, as a whole way of life. So let's talk about when the in modern era how this term culture studies evolved or came into existence. Founding of a particular center by Richard Hogarth and Stuart Hall, one of the two most prominent culture theorists at the University of Birmingham, named CCCS. It means Center for Contemporary Culture Studies. Center for Contemporary Culture Studies. And this CCCS was set up in 1964. And after that, mass culture and working class culture lost its significance with the establishment of CCCS at Birmingham. Okay, so this is the new terms, or this is the new thing that you can just learn here, that mass culture and working class culture lost its significance. Okay, as we just if you go back, then you can see that Levy cites against this mass culture also. Okay, and they are not just focusing on mass culture or working class culture. They are just simply focusing on high class culture, that how to promote it. Okay, that's why F.R. Leavies take the example of 18th and 19th century, the villages of the England, folk songs and ballads and other things. So this is a culture study in a nutshell. Okay, there are other theorists. Okay, there are some another major works by these two writers, major concept by these two writers, like Richard Hogarth and Stuart Hall. But we can discuss it later. Thank you very much.